Ever wondered if your advertising dollar is really working for you? If your ad would have been here, you and more than 4 million people would be listening to it right now. Contact ads at xzoneradiotv.com.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
They say Mandela died in prison back in 1983. Yet history books keep telling us he lived to set men free. How could millions all remember a world that never was? That single strange collective memory started all the buzz. Now people talk of timelines, worlds colliding in the night, tiny cracks in human memory or dimensions out of sight. From children's books to movie lines and logos rearranged, something in the fabric feels familiar yet has changed. We're shifting through the cracks tonight, searching for what's real, trying to understand the things our memories still feel. Are we living parallel lives in worlds just out of phase? Or is the human mind rewriting yesterday's old days? Some say CERN has opened doorways, bending time and space. Others blame suggestion and the mind's imperfect trace. Psychologists keep telling us memory can deceive, while millions swear with certainty there's more than make-believe. Mirror, mirror on the wall, or look, I am your father. The Berenstain or Berenstein still sparks another bother. Tiny changes, little details that somehow feel so wrong, like hearing your favorite melody with altered words and song. We're shifting through the cracks tonight between the false and true, a puzzle with no answers yet, but questions breaking through. Some believe the universe is layered deep and wide, and every choice creates a world where different truths survive. Could consciousness be traveling through realities unknown? Could dreams and deja vu reveal dimensions of our own? Or maybe human memory is fragile by design, a storyteller changing facts with the passage of time. Still late at night, the forums glow with stories people share, of vanished names and altered maps and changes everywhere. And though no final answer has ever been revealed, the mystery of the Mandela Effect refuses to stay sealed. We're shifting through the cracks tonight where certainty dissolves, a mystery of memory no science yet resolves. Whether timelines cross somehow or minds that rearrange, one thing binds us all together, the feeling something changed.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And if you would like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV. And we're coming to you tonight on the CanCom Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM here in St. Catharines, Ontario. And they stream us around the world on classic1220.ca. Tonight on the X Zone Nation, I'm going to ask you a question. What if the past isn't as fixed as we believe it is? What if reality itself is shifting? Well, millions of people around the world vividly remember events, logos, movie lines, historical facts, even the spelling of famous names differently from what official records now show. Is it faulty memory, mass confusion, or evidence that something far stranger is happening? Our guest tonight is one of the world's leading researchers into what is known to become known as the Mandela Effect, the phenomenon where large groups of people remember alternate versions of reality that apparently never existed. Joining us is author, physicist, and consciousness researcher Cynthia Sue Larson, whose groundbreaking work explores quantum jumps, parallel realities, consciousness shifts, and the possibility that humanity may be moving between timelines without even realizing it. From missing cornucopias and altered movie quotes to profound questions about time, memory, and the fabric of existence itself, tonight's conversation may leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about reality. Welcome to the X Zone, where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. I'm Rob McConnell. Joining me now from the beautiful state of California is an X Zone good friend and my good friend, Cynthia Sue Larson. Cynthia, welcome back to the X Zone.
Oh, thank you, Rob. And I love that opening song. That is amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You and I have talked many times about the Mandela Effect, and I've got to be honest with you. When we first started, I thought, no way, but I've got to tell you something. I'm a believer now.
So what happened? Because I remember when we first started talking, and you were skeptical, but you're one of the good skeptics, open-minded.
Well, this is what happened. I did research on it. And like it said in this song, all millions of people cannot be wrong. And history is proving the Mandela Effect is real. History is proving that all these years of you talking about the Mandela Effect, you're right on. But how do we explain to the rest of the world what the Mandela Effect is?
Right. For people that are new to it, I think the best thing is just to be aware that there are people already observing that some of the so-called facts and written history can change. It's nice just to have that idea out there. It's good to have it there because it provides a cushion for the inevitable moment where someone stumbles into something and they are blown away because something has changed and they cannot figure out how that could possibly be because they know for sure what they remember and it's completely different.
Cynthia, I've known you for a number of years. You're an author, you're a physicist, you're a consciousness researcher. How did you get involved in the Mandela Effect? What was it, as a scientist, that brought you into the lure, the phenomenon? Are we facing something that we've never even thought could happen in our existence?
Right. Well, before it was called the Mandela Effect, which happened in the 2000s, then the name the Mandela Effect, I noticed in the 1990s that reality was absolutely malleable, that things were changing that had no business changing. I mean, like a statue appearing that had never been there before, that was very weathered and old, a sundial sculpture that I feature in my book, Reality Shifts. And that thing is huge. It's like 15, 20 feet tall, made out of concrete. It's a gift from a sister city in Japan to the city of Berkeley that I live in, California. And I used to go to this same aquatic park by the Berkeley Marina to have brunch with friends. And we'd go frequently, like every month. And then one day, there it is, this monstrous sundial sculpture. And the funny thing is, it kind of showed up right when I was asking them if they'd ever experienced what I was calling reality shifts. And as they were answering, then it's like, don't look now, guys. But do you remember ever seeing this? Like, we're just going to walk right into it. It had never been there before.
Now, did you check with the city of Berkeley to see if anyone at the city level actually knew anything about this statue that just popped up?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
My friend, these are people that they were bank managers. So if you're wondering who was I walking with, are they flakes?
No,
Are they
no,
from
no.
California? These were not flakes. And one of them is very practical they're both practical and down to earth. But my friend Cliff said, hey, Cynthia, you should check with the harbor master, and just because we were all confused about this. Yeah, so I did. I checked in with the harbor master, and I got what's typical of these sorts of things. In other words, the harbor master did not report this just sort of fell in from outer space one day. No, there was a whole cover story that this statue had always been there. I'm saying cover story because that's what it feels like for people like you and me. When we know what we know. We know we've always walked through the plaza. It was always wide open space. We wouldn't have tripped and been injured by this. If we'd been blind, we just bumble right into that thing.
I often wonder how many people walk by something and say, geez, I never realized that store was there. And I wonder if this is part of the Mandela Effect and they're subconsciously watching time shift right before their very eyes.
Yeah, some people do write that off. And if they weren't there and if they didn't experience what we experienced, then they easily could say, Cynthia, you just were so enthralled with your friends. You're talking to them. You got distracted. You just never noticed. But that doesn't hold up. That skeptical doesn't hold up because now that the sundial sculpture is there, it blocks the visibility of another statue. Previously, that was the only thing you could see, and you could see it quite clearly. It was sort of an archer, like a character, stylized figure of a man riding on some stylized horse, about to shoot like an arrow toward the Golden Gate Bridge. Now you can barely see it because the sundial sculpture's in the way when you approach the plaza the way we always did.
Is there anything on the sundial sculpture that would indicate where it was manufactured, when it was manufactured, or any clues as to its previous existence?
1970s. I've got the date in my book at the Reality Shifts. I don't have it right at my fingertips.
Okay.
But you know what's interesting? That sundial represents space and time. It's a way of telling time by the movement of the planet through space.
Cynthia Sue Larson is my special guest, and Cynthia and I will be back on the other side of this break. Her website is Reality Shifters, right?
Yes.
.com.
Reality Shifters, right.
Cynthia Sue Larson, very interesting lady. She's not a flake, Exxon Nation. She's an author. She's a physicist, and she does consciousness research. Fact, fiction, or altered time? I'll go with altered time. Because, like I said, I was very skeptical when I first started talking to Cynthia and other people about the Mandela Effect years ago, but I'm telling you, I'm hearing all about it, and millions of people can't be wrong. So what are we missing? What are we listening to? What are we watching? And why are only some people seeing the shift? Does that mean time shifts throughout our existing realities all the time without us knowing it? We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Through the cracks tonight, searching for what's real, trying to understand things our memories still feel. Are we living parallel lives in worlds just out of phase, or is the human mind rewriting? In a house of dragons and
Welcome back, everyone. Cynthia Sue Larson is our special guest. www.realityshifters.com is her website. And Cynthia's book is available on Amazon.com and on all fine book-selling platforms around the world. Cynthia, why do you believe so many people vividly remember events differently from the official history?
That's a good question. Yeah, that collective alternate memory is that's my definition of Mandela effect. And it seems like it's an increasing number of people. Because back when I started reporting this and studying it, that was the late 1990s. It was 1998. And there was a stigma, I'll tell you, associated with with going public and giving your name and saying that this that you've experienced something like this. Because people were writing and reporting these things to me. But they didn't want to give their name. Now, some 27 years, 28 years later, I'm seeing people for the first time ever saying, I don't care, just put my whole name there. Yeah, say what city I'm from. Not everybody, but the fact that that's even happening, as well as the huge numbers of people noticing the Mandela effect. Like you said, it's got to be millions of people noticing. I think that's attributable to the energy levels. It's not woo-woo. There really is an energy level that we have. I wrote a book, Aura Advantage, and was talking about these measurable energy levels that we each possess. And it seems clear to me that we're running with high emotions for sure, but we're also running with high energy. Not everybody, but a lot of people.
Would this explain, and when I say this, I'm talking about the shifting of realities. Would this explain, for example, UFO sightings, paranormal events that seem to be seen by some, not seen by others? And in the research that you've done and the people who've done the reporting of these events that we would call the Mandela Effect, have you noticed any common thread between the people who have had these experiences?
Yes, there is a common thread, and it's something I've been noticing when I did some surveys to find out what do people who've experienced the Mandela effect have in common. I've done surveys on this, and a couple of other people have studied it as well. And all three studies in this area show one of the key factors is something called empathy, or basically another way to look at it is self-referential thinking, associating external events as having personal significance, and really being able to do something called perspective switching.
That almost sounds like the definition of a coincidence.
Yes, it is. Yeah, you're very savvy there. Yeah, Bernard Beitman is the author of a book about meaningful coincidences. And
in fact, Bernie used to have a show here on this network.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, he's a great guy. A lot of respect.
He is so great. Yeah, he's one of the three. I did research. He did research. When I interviewed him, I was so familiar with reading his book about coinciders and everything, so I was able to tell him about what I've noticed with my decades of experience looking at reality shifts and synchronicity, and it's the same kind of thing. It's basically the same attributes that he's picking up on that are part of the phenomenon, part of the experience phenomenon. People that, like, you could be standing side by side with someone. One person sees the UFO, the other one doesn't.
Right.
One person notices the reality shift or the Mandela effect, and the other one doesn't. And that's normal because one person doesn't have the same degree of that metacognition, and they're not running that high energy, high emotion. Maybe they're not searching for life's meaning. And if they're not doing those things, they're not going to have the coincidences, they're not going to see the UFO, and they're less likely to experience the Mandela effect.
In your opinion, what are some of the most famous examples of the Mandela effect that continue to fascinate you?
Oh boy. Well, the ones that fascinate me are the personal ones, but then it's more like a personal, and I just keep getting walloped by one in particular, but it's not a big one for everybody. It's just Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove he got a parapsychology degree at UC Berkeley. He won a $500,000 prize for proof of life after death, basically the best written essay on it. And but he had a show back when I was studying physics at UC Berkeley. This is where it gets very personal. I know for sure, and this facts will not support what I'm about to say, and that is the Mandela effect, because I know that I would study at UC Berkeley, and I'd study physics, and the classes were hard. And I'd come back to my apartment, and I just want to relax, watch something entertaining, but educational. And his show, I swear, was on TV between the years that I was there. So that would be from 1980 to 82. Now that's frankly completely impossible on the current timeline. And you can look it up, and I've interviewed him and talked to him face to face, saying how weird this is for me personally. But that's a very personal shift. In other words, what I'm saying is I was watching his shows with Fred Allen Wolf and all the wonderful people he had on there years before, like 5 years before that show ever went on TV. And I know I watched it because during the years it was supposedly on, I had no time to watch it. I had a job that kept me working 10-hour days, 50-hour weeks. I never watched TV. So
is it possible, Cynthia, that we each individually have the ability to time shift?
Yes.
That we do it without knowing we're doing it.
Absolutely. That is actually the crux of the whole thing right there. And it's amazing to me that we have so many of these Mandela effects that are so widespread, like the cornucopia that you mentioned briefly in passing. That's huge. The fruit of the loom is used to have that symbolic icon. It was like that.
I remember it.
Yeah, the cornucopia. It looks like the Thanksgiving, that sort of horn of plenty.
And it would have all the fruit coming out of it.
Right, usually a basket kind of shape. And that never existed. So that's something, and I've heard from insiders that worked at Fruit of the Loom, because over the years I've had the ability to research these things. And just like what we were noticing about the sundial at the Berkeley Marina, similarly, the people that have worked inside the Fruit of the Loom offices, they've told me they've looked for it. Like, is a secret thing? Was there a cornucopia and they pulled it and they didn't tell anyone and there's no proof of it? Were they that successful at sweeping the internet? No, it just never did exist. But yet so many of us remember it, to the point that there have been studies, refereed journaled articles studying this phenomenon. And that's one of the things that people do notice, is they remember the cornucopia on the Fruit of the Loom. And
let's talk about the namesake of the phenomenon, Mandela.
Right.
What's the story behind the Mandela being the Mandela of the Mandela Effect? Geez, that was a hard one to get out. Anyway.
Yes, it's all about Nelson Mandela. Some people think, is that the mandala? Like, they're interested in those beautiful designs that have that very very structured look, usually in a circular fashion. But no, this absolutely is Nelson Mandela. And it has everything to do with the man, Nelson Mandela. And in my book, The Mandela Effect and Its Society, I talk about, each chapter opens with a quote by Nelson Mandela that seems very relevant, because, I think he had a lot to say. And I'm glad that it's him that people have named the Mandela Effect after, because what they're saying is they remember that he died when he was incarcerated on Robbins Island at some point in the 1980s. I know your song says 1983. Some people remember 87. But again, this is classic Mandela Effect territory. You're going to have some people that remember different years, and that just goes with the territory. Point of fact is, he did not die in the 1980s.
He didn't.
Went on. No, he went on to become the president of South Africa. And that's mind-blowing for those of us that remember quite clearly where we were. In some cases, some people have written to me and said, I was in school and our teacher was devastated to hear that Nelson Mandela had died. This is around the world. I don't hear these reports from South Africa, and there's a quantum physics reason for that, because, again, that's more technical. But basically, when you hear these things, it's typically reported from the periphery, from France, from America, from Canada, other places where people definitely notice when somebody of such stature and had been working toward peace and, with good intentions for the world, passes away, because there were candlelight vigils, and, people were, they felt unified by the ideas that he was sharing. And I'm not saying he's a perfect person. I don't think most people are perfect, but it's like his life was meaningful. And so it's called Mandela Effect because some people were at a Dragon Con conference talking about, I think, fiction and movies and stuff like that. And one of them just in passing said, hey, doesn't it seem strange that Nelson Mandela is alive? Didn't he die? Do you remember that too? And at that point, when they were talking about this in, I think, 2006, Art Bell on Coast to Coast had been talking about Nelson Mandela. And he'd been getting faxes, and back when there were faxes and phone calls and letters with people saying that they remember Nelson Mandela had died when he was incarcerated. And a lot of people remember similar details, like his wife, Winnie, had quite a battle ahead of her to try to reclaim his estate. It was just this whole legal nightmare. But now none of that ever happened. So
I was just going to say that truly is strange. You and I have to take our break at the bottom of the hour, my dear friend. Please stand by. Exonation's Cynthia Sue Larson is our very special guest this hour. We're talking about the Mandela Effect. And if you'd like to find out more about Cynthia, please visit her website, realityshifters.com, and her books are available on amazon.com. This is the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, streaming us around the world on classic1220.ca.
Changing the world in the old God's name. Oh, Oberon, wizard of the silver flame, morning glory calling nature's sacred name. Through the mists of Avalon they ride, with the unicorn spirit by their side. Dreamers of a world reborn, children of the stars in storm, holding high the torch of the free, guardians of eternal mystery. They spoke of love without fear or chains of moonlit.
When the moon bleeds black on All Hallows Eve, whispers crawl through the dead oak leaves, candles flicker in the graveyard's breath, calling spirits back from death. The witches are awake tonight, dancing around the firelight. Spells are cast, the veil is thin. Let the wicked feast begin. Screams will echo through the sky. You will laugh before you die. Run if you dare, make no mistake. The witches are awake.
Cynthia Sue Larson is our special guest, realityshifters.com. But before we get back to Cynthia, I have to tell you, the members of the Exo Nation, something very, very important. Do you remember all the reports of submerged UFOs off the coast of California? Yeah.
yes.
Guess what? They weren't UFOs at all. We have the proof that they were U.S. Navy drones being tested. That's right. Drone warfare underwater is a reality. We're not talking about submarines. We're not talking about mini subs. We're not talking about sophisticated torpedoes. We're talking about drones, just like they have in the sky. They now have for underwater use. We're going to be putting 3 or 4 photos of them up on our website at xzoneradiotv.com, as well as some maneuvers that they've already done. So I want to thank a whistleblower in the United States Navy for sending me all this great information. And yes, we have authenticated the person who sent it to us, and we've also authenticated the pictures and the videos. No AI traces anywhere. So that's, let me see, in the next day or two at xzoneradiotv.com. Cynthia Larson, welcome back, my dear friend. Cynthia, how does quantum physics connect with your theories about reality shifts?
Well, very nicely, actually, because that's where things start making sense for me personally. Otherwise, this is just really freaky when things just are kind of blipping in and out of reality.
How often do you hear a scientist say something, well, this is really freaky?
I don't know how else to put it. It's just because literally I was seeing things that would appear, disappear, transform, transport. And that's what I meant by reality shifts, as well as changes in the experience of time and timelines themselves.
How many times have you heard people say, well, I could have swore I put my keys there?
Yes.
And they walk away, and 1 or 2 days later, poof, the keys are right back where the person had left them. How does this happen? And talking to you and understanding very, very, very little of the Mandela Effect and what you quantum physicists do, it's all starting to make sense.
Yeah, it is starting to make sense. And the quantum physics helps a lot, I think, because it gives us a way of looking at the world. Quantum physics is not complete. It's not the end all be all. It's not yet. We don't even have an agreed upon interpretation of quantum physics. So until we do, it's hard to say like there's an agreement among all quantum physicists, because there really isn't. It's still the wild, wild west of physics. But in the meantime, we're starting to get some ideas.
Okay.
And the ideas are powerful, because we start to see that where people say timelines, in physics, they don't usually say timelines, but they will talk about things like the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics, which absolutely represents a way of looking at what the layperson might call a timeline. And that's interesting, because then you've got sort of a crossover where you can take one idea and map it onto another. With the Mandela Effect, we sometimes see what's called a flip-flop, where we might see the spelling of Chick-fil-A spelled C-H. It's a chicken restaurant in America. The spelling may change, and then it goes back and forth. And that's very strange to see that happen. But within physics, quantum physics, we are aware that a quantum particle can be in a superposition of states where it could be spin up and spin down simultaneously until it's observed. And so these ideas from quantum physics, when we know that's what happens, kind of like in the so-called quantum realm, which they used to think of as being kind of like Las Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But actually, what happens in the quantum realm does not stay in the quantum realm. And the top physicists that I know, the award-winning ones, the really super genius ones, they know that these quantum changes and shifts and reality shifts, that they're happening at every level of reality. One physicist, I talked to him over a cup of tea and told him that I was apologizing. I said, I'm sorry that I didn't put you in my book, Quantum Jumps, because at the time I wrote the book in 2013, you did not exist. And he just nodded and kept sipping his tea and moved the subject right along, because he totally, totally got it. And I sort of, when you have that moment in a conversation, you're all prepared to explain yourself. And I was going to say, don't feel bad. It's happened to me too. But I didn't need to do any of that. He was so instantly aware. So the people that really get quantum physics really understand what's happening with the Mandela Effect, and understand that we're being given a glimpse of consciousness itself in ourselves, the way that we observe.
Tell me, Cynthia, are there spiritual implications connected to the Mandela Effect?
Yes, there are, because that's a perfect segue, because what I was just saying is the way that we observe, and it matters so much. And the spiritual connection is, how do you steer this thing? Like, if once you start noticing that your observations are changing reality, what's the best advice for how to steer your life? And thank you for your question. That's basically the answer. I would say, let's make sure that we are being the best people we can possibly be. Because what starts happening when consciousness is actually literally changing the world is that if you're not careful and you haven't dealt with your own shadow issues of jealousy, envy, laziness, gluttony, whatever, they can be very deleterious. They can be negative. They can be sort of dead ends that you fall into. And so ideally, you can rise above these. And we're human, so we're going to have issues. I'm not telling people they have to be perfect, but it is a spiritual path when you start noticing that the more you can tune your attention to focus on what you're truly grateful for, and to genuinely be the embodiment of what you're seeking, well, if that's not the definition of a spiritual path, I don't know what is.
How about dreams? Could dreams, intuition, or deja vu be partly connected or connected in full to the shifting realities?
Yes, absolutely. Basically, dreams look like that's the best way to understand reality, because it looks like the physical world is sort of a phase of consciousness, and we access it through the dreams. So we can, and that means that when we're awake, you can have a waking dream. You can be in a lucid experience.
Isn't that what they call daydreaming?
Yes, but it's also the metacognition that Bernard Beitman talks about. So it's that awareness of being aware. It's basically levels of consciousness, and as soon as you access that, like you know that you, like animals can be conscious, but maybe they don't know what consciousness means. Humans have something special going on, and some of us are really, really aware that we have something special going on, and we care about it, and so it's part of that spiritual path. But even if people don't necessarily belong to a given religion, they can still be part of that movement, part of that human evolutionary growth.
You know, some people claim geography and anatomy have changed in Mandela Effect memories. What are your thoughts on those reports?
Yeah, it's true. From what I've seen, I haven't done autopsies. I don't do much outside of high school. I think we did a dissection of a frog, but I don't really have hands-on knowledge firsthand about what's going on inside of our bodies. But I can tell you that for people that have come to my workshops and talks, they've been blown away with, for example, the kidneys having moved upwards from where they used to be. And now, because I was talking to one of the attendees at a workshop, and she said that she had just been going to see her doctor to have her kidneys checked for some regular exam for some reason. And she was surprised, I mean, really surprised, that instead of checking in her lower back, accessing on the backside, they were coming in through the front, and it was much higher up. And I said, that's right, because I was talking about how the kidneys have moved upward under the protection of the rib cage. And she said, her face kind of went white as a sheet, and she said, this just happened to me. And I couldn't figure out what was going on, because I thought something was wrong with me. And I said, no, this affected 8 billion people on the planet simultaneously, apparently. We've all been affected, you know, and it's only a few of us that remember that there used to be something called the kidney punch in boxing.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know not to punch someone there because, you know, you remember, I'll let you say what happens if someone gets punched there. Well, if you don't, it's kind of gory and gross, but people might urinate blood. That's what I remember.
That's what used to happen as well.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. Is there any connection between the noticing of the effects of the Mandela Effect and the operation of CERN?
There might well be. I don't think it's the primary causal factor, but and it's maybe surprising for people to hear me say that because I've previously said, no, I don't think so. But who knows? I think the thing is, CERN was created by an idea. It was created by consciousness. And maybe there were some scientists involved that wanted to tinker with reality. I think a lot of people are aware that the planet is undergoing some serious changes right now, like you talk about with the guests on your show. Right. Yeah. And so I think these powers that be, the people that have the money to put together a project like CERN, I think they're aware of that. And I think like all the people in the top power positions on the planet, including science, they probably wanted to know if we can get a foothold, if we can change reality. Let's see if we can do it this way. I don't think that's the right way to do it personally. I would prefer the spiritual approach, but it very well may have something to do with it just based on the high energy levels that are possible with that particle accelerator.
Is it possible that this is part of our evolutionary step?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's the key here is, and I am an optimist. You probably remember that. So I'm definitely optimistic about everything. So I tend to feel that no matter how difficult, traumatic, and challenging situations may be, and I mean, that's on every level right now these days, and I'm not immune to it. I see it right where I live. But despite all that, I know that we are going through it because the challenge gives us the capability to draw on skills and abilities that we didn't even know we possessed. And that's what I think is really happening.
You and I have to take our final break, but it's very interesting to sit here, listen, and to think about the Mandela Effect, how it touches spirituality, consciousness, the paranormal, existence, history, every aspect of our day-to-day life. Stand by. We'll be back on the other side of this very short break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, streaming us at classic1220.ca.
When the moon bleeds black on All Hallows Eve, whispers crawl through the dead oak leaves, candles flicker in the graveyard's bread, calling spirits back from death. The witches are awake tonight, dancing around the firelight. Spells are cast, the veil is thin. Let the wicked feast begin. Screams will echo through the sky. You will laugh before you die. Run if you dare.
Somewhere out there, a light's gone dim. A chair sits empty, the world feels thin. A mother's voice that should be near is now just silence filled with fear. The days grow longer, the nights grow cold. Questions unanswered, prayers unfold. A family waits through endless pain, hoping to hold her once again. If you know something, if you see the truth, you can be the reason she comes home soon. Do the right thing, pick up the phone. No one deserves to be alone. $1 million won't replace the love that lives in Nancy's place. Her family's breaking every day, still believing, still they pray. You hold the key, don't look away. Do the right thing today.
Welcome back, everyone. As you know, I have been doing what we can here to help find Nancy Guthrie. And I was really hoping, I was really hoping that we would be able to be part of the worldwide effort to bring Nancy Guthrie home to Savannah and her family for Mother's Day. Wouldn't have that been a wonderful, wonderful gift? Mother's Day. But unfortunately, we're still looking, we're still hoping, we're still praying. Now, if you know anything, if you have any suspicions, if you've got a hunch or an idea, do the right thing. Pick up your phone and call 1-800-CALL-FBI. That's 800-CALL-FBI. And no hint, no little bit of information is too small. So come on, X Zone Nation, let's do our part and try our very best to bring Nancy home. Cynthia Sue Larson is our guest. RealityShifters.com is her website. We're talking about the Mandela Effect this hour. First of all, thanks so much for coming on the show tonight. It's always great talking to you. And I was thinking before, can you imagine what we could do, each and every one of us, if we learned how to control this time shifting?
Yeah, I think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg, and that's exactly what excites me the most, that We are witnessing an evolutionary shift for humanity. And it's just, we're stumbling. We're like babies learning to walk. We keep falling down in the sandbox.
Yeah.
It's a soft landing, but we don't quite seem to know what we're doing. We don't have the full controls. This is not something we're going to be able to hand over, or we should not hand it over to robotic or artificial intelligence control, because that's defeating the whole spiritual growth evolutionary purpose. So I'm not encouraging transhumanism, far from it. I'm recommending that we start looking at how good can it get, asking questions that we'd like to live the answers to, and recognizing the role that we play when the keys, instead of getting lost, they come back and we find something else. Noticing that when we're very kind and doing things for other people, we experience miraculous reality shifts. That's what I'd like to see people recognizing.
How can people tell the difference between imagination and a genuine Mandela effect, or experience, I should say?
Yeah, that's a good one. Basically, it's a personal thing, because if it's your own personal Mandela effect, like mine with the Thinking Aloud TV show with Jeffrey Mishlev, I'm going based on my absolute certainty. So it should be absolute certainty is the difference with imagination. Because if you're absolutely certain that this is a true memory that you have, nobody can question you about it. I mean, they might think they can, and they can say facts don't support what you're saying. But if you know for sure that you were in a certain place and this is what was happening, then please trust your memories. So if you can't really be sure, and sometimes I'm being honest, sometimes I'm not sure. If it's been in decades, I don't remember who I went to school with, and all the children in my second grade class, I don't really remember. That's okay. So imagination would be something where you can tell that you're kind of daydreaming, like you said earlier, and it has a different feeling to it. That's where you're doing sort of a what if exploration, whereas a genuine Mandela effect is where you're seeing proof and evidence that things are quite different than you know for sure that you remember.
And I know for doing this show the number of years that I have, that belief is the strongest power in the universe. If you truly believe something, come hell or high water, you're not going to change your belief, because you honestly believe in what you believe in. So for anybody who's saying, "Oh, come on, no, Exonation," there are plenty of good causes to be totally skeptical about, but millions of people are reporting this phenomenon worldwide. So I believe that thanks to you, Sue, and other members of the scientific community who are doing an in-depth and scientific investigation into this phenomenon, that you're on the cusp of finding something very, very important about our evolutionary tract.
Right. And there is another thing that we can look at, too, that can give you confidence that it's not imagination, it's a genuine Mandela effect. And that would be what I mentioned earlier, the flip-flop, which means that you're looking at something and it's one way. And then just when you're starting to doubt yourself, like, is this even real? Then it switches back. And if it goes back and forth a few times, that can be revelatory, because then like, wait a minute, now it's moving. Look at this. And at that point, you might draw other people to take a look at it too. Like what do you remember? Yeah. And then it's pretty certain that you're not imagining it, because now it's becoming a thing, where this, like the name of a store or whatever, is switching back and forth.
I was just going through my notes here, and there's a paranormal investigator that we've had on the show a number of times. His name is Patrick Cross in Burlington, Ontario. That's not very far from here. I believe it's about 35 miles. It's in between here and Toronto. A beautiful little city. And Patrick has come on the show to talk to us about a soldier statue, who one day his arms will be folded one way, and then people start reporting it that the arms are folded a different way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, wow, that is so cool. And I'm glad that's coming on the show, and that there's some publicity to it, because that is where we collectively start noticing, like, this is amazing. Mm-hmm. People are noticing that with Rodin's thinker statue too, where he'll have people remember the statue with he's sort of looking pensive. He's got his one arm sort of propped on his leg with the fist up toward his head. But with the positioning of the knuckles has changed. Some people remember it on the forehead, some remember it on the chin, and it has moved around. So that's another wild statue shift.
Let me throw something at you here, and I just thought of this. You know how some people are totally different than you recall them, or the friends totally change? Is it possible that this is part of the Mandela Effect, that the friend that was one way is now in another dimension or another reality, and the person that we're looking at talking to now is that person that they kind of switch places?
Yeah, exactly. Jerry Hicks, he was one of the founding members of the International Mandela Effect Conference that we had running for 5 years. That was one of the big things he talked about the first year we came together, was that he had a bunch of friends that sort of played musical chairs with their personalities, and he was just dumbstruck, like, what the heck happened?
Yeah.
And for him, and also that day that I was walking with my two friends and the sundial sculpture suddenly appeared, that was exactly what my friend Jan was saying. She said for her, it's always people's personalities that are completely different. That is mind-boggling to her. Like, how could they have been one way and now they won't even admit that they used to be the other way? It's sort of like it's a totally different person, but supposedly it's the same person.
And what about the times when you're driving from point A to point B and you kind of lose track, or you think you lose track of part of the drive? They call it highway hypnosis. Is it possible that what we understand as highway hypnosis is really part of the time shift?
I'd say yes.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most common reality shifts that I was tracking when I was first starting to report the phenomenon. Besides missing keys, that driving and going farther in less time than is humanly possible without speeding was one of the top things people reported. They would do a 6-hour drive in 2 hours. And that's like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
But they did it. And it was more than one person. Another big one is people facing an oncoming truck that there's nowhere to go because they're inside a tunnel or on a narrow road or what have you. And they brace for impact, like, well, that's it, my life's over. And the next thing they know, the large vehicle is behind them in the rear view mirror, which is impossible. And their vehicle has somehow tunneled right through that oncoming vehicle. And I'm saying tunneled because, once again, there's a quantum phenomena that does this. That is exactly what quantum particles do. They tunnel right through things. They can go right through each other. No big deal. These are two of the most commonly reported reality shifts, and I think that is significant.
I think we have to take the word impossible out of the dictionary.
Yes. Improbable, maybe.
Improbable, right. First of all, we've got about a minute before I have to say so long. I do want to thank you ever so much. Any new books on the horizon for you?
Just things I'm looking at and working on, but nothing coming out yet, nothing definitive.
Do me a favor. Never stop doing what you're doing, because you're bringing a light to a dark part of the investigation into the unknown that needs to be there. Not only are you bringing your own personal light, but you're also bringing the light of the people who have these experiences around the world, including the scientific community. So for that, I want to thank you ever so much. And it's great having you here on the X Zone tonight.
Thank you. And thanks for your brilliant questions, as always. I really appreciate your mind and your heart, your soul. And thanks for doing what you're doing.
Thank you, my dear friend. I look forward to the next time you're on the show with us. And yes, I will send you the clip to that music.
Thank you so much.
Take care of yourself. Bye-bye now. Exo Nation, my good friend Cynthia Sue Larson has been our guest this hour. We've been talking about the Mandela Effect and how it, applies to alternate realities, and this, the fascinating possibility that consciousness may play a far greater role in shaping reality than we ever imagined. Her website, realityshifters.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. www.xzoneradiotv.com is our website for all past shows of the X Zone, www.xzbn.net. And we're here every night on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, streaming us at classic1220.ca.